Good afternoon and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self at KMET 1490 ABC News Radio. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in private practice in beautiful Encino, California, which is a gorgeous day outside today.
We've had a lot of them.
Right.
A lot of gorgeous days. I'm Dr. Robert Jaffe. I'm your co-host, and I'm here with Dr. Rashidian. We're going to share with you some of what we've learned over many years of study and practice, the goal of which is to feel more loving and joyful every day of our lives. We always dedicate this program to you, our listeners, and those of you who could see us, our viewers. And we are here to let you know that you actually do contain within you everything you need to feel happy, joyous, and free. We are born into our world as our loving, authentic, true self, and we come in with some valuable qualities. We come in open, curious, we come in honest, we come in as sexual beings, and we come in trusting. We also have the ability to have other we have the ability to have other aspects of ourself developed. One of which is to be emotionally available and connected with others. We also have the ability to be compassionate, and we have the ability to be confident within ourselves. And so here we are, continuing our journey and sharing with you, and hopefully we will make an impression, a positive one, and hopefully you guys can take something from it, and we'll share with us back. Give us a call and let us know your thoughts, your ideas, and feedback on what we're saying. We're here to help.
Thank you. And then our phone number to do that is 951-922-3532. That's 951-922-3532. You can also visit us at our YouTube at heart-2heart.online/YouTube. So welcome, and we are here to talk about another aspects of sex, sexuality, and relationship during pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, Robert, we are not hearing good news, actually, are we?
Well, we're not hearing good news in that the pandemic is not going away. The pandemic is still very, very strong and still affecting millions of people. And the numbers of people who are infected are actually on the rise. They're not evening out, and they're not on the fall. So what does that mean for us?
Well, it means that I guess we the decrease that we had, at least in California, we became comfortable with a false belief that the corona has gone away or is on way out of our lives. So we increased, social contacts. We became more present, in restaurants, going to the beach, in our relationships. And some people, they followed the guidelines. They stayed home. They stayed in quarantine. They stayed indoors. They wear masks and all of that. But I think maybe variety of factors contributed, not just feeling more comfortable going out, but maybe all the riots and everything kind of added to the situation of not considering social distancing, and then the numbers have gone up, and many people have lost their jobs as a result, right? And that, the corona, the increase of that, the frustration of not having jobs, and that has shown some level of, I mean, the impact has been kind of significant according, or at least what I'm hearing from my other colleagues that they talk about, and then what I hear from my clients, even though I see them through, telehealth, but still they're telling me that they are experiencing some problems such as low sexual desire.
Mm.
And then there is a report of decreased level of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
There is a increase in level of fighting and finger pointing at each other,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And from very simple things, basic stuff like, if we wouldn't have spent that money on that vacation, now we would have had extra saving in the bank, right? Or if you would have done that kind of a project, you would have had more investment. Or there are lots of going back and forth between if we would have kind of a thing. So that has, increased the level of fighting, the level of discomfort among couples who are living together.
Right.
And they don't have to do, quarantine or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but then again, there are some partners who have also, because they haven't been able to see each other, they have gone on their own ways, or and those who are staying together because of these fightings and disagreements, and also other reports that they hear, right? So it's not just the fighting. They hear the numbers going up, and they hear all these do's and don'ts about sex, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that has caused people to kind of, perhaps it's out of fear, not to have or not to experience desire to have sex.
Well, we're talking about higher stress levels.
Right.
And so stress, what is stress?
It's the consequences of fear.
It's a consequence of fear, yes. And so when we have so much uncertainty that's going on right now, with our ability to support ourselves with jobs, uncertainty as to how safe is it to go out, uncertainty as to is it safe to be sexual with someone, uncertainty with is this going to affect our children, how can we keep our children safe, so much uncertainty, and then getting so many mixed messages from the government. Of course, we have a government right now where they're wanting to reopen because they're wanting the economy to rebound and to come back. And so there's so much debate about whether it's safe to do that, and we don't know who to believe. So when you talk about a lack of sexual desire, that's part of the stress, is when people are stressed, they don't want sex. They want to feel comfortable. It's hard to have sex when you're feeling uncomfortable, and so we need to talk, I think, about how to manage our stress. And one thing that you said that I'd like maybe to talk a little more about is the idea of blaming, because blaming is so powerful and endemic in our society that we look for who to blame, and we look to say, okay, it's this person's fault or it's this group's fault. And we do that so that we don't have to take responsibility for anything that is our own fault or that is our own ability to change anything. If we can just put it on the other person, then we don't have to self-reflect. And you and I see that so much in couples counseling.
Right.
And I want to say that last thing I want to say is when people come in for couples counseling, and if it's a heterosexual couple and the man and the woman are sitting there, and she's talking about, well, if he hadn't da-da-da-da-da, or he should da-da-da-da-da, and then he's getting defensive and going, yeah, but she's da-da-da-da-da, or she could da-da-da-da-da, or she always, or she never, and now they're pointing the finger at each other. There's nothing really for the therapist to do in the counseling center except to say, as long as you guys are pointing the finger at each other, nothing productive is going to happen.
Right, and I've been there myself, telling people that, that as long as they do that, they're not wanting, or they're not desiring, or they're not able to see themselves as accountable people in the process of what has happened or what's going on.
Yes. And so until people are willing to stop blaming, and I say, when you're pointing the finger at the other person, take your other hand and turn your finger around towards yourself, and then talk about what your part is in it, how you contribute to the problem, and what you can do yourself to change, to make the changes needed to make the problem go away, or to at least ameliorate the problem. And if you can't do that, then you're going to get back into the blame game. And if you want to sit there and pay me my fee to watch you guys fight, it's your money, but I don't think you're going to be very happy when you walk out.
Exactly, because nothing's accomplished, right? They don't come to see us, to fight in front of us and say, see whose fault it is, and then I'm the victim here, right? Well, that's not going to work, because they can do that on their own.
Yeah. And do.
Right. And they do.
Do. And sometimes people can't stop. Sometimes people can't stop. There are people in the world, and as Americans, we know some of them, who take responsibility for nothing that's going wrong and blame everybody else. And we're beginning to see the cost of that, because actually nothing positive gets done in terms of resolving the issues. Yeah.
Right. So, and then, the part that, we're going to talk about all of that, of course, the part that scares people off are some, scientific reports that's coming out, or just people hear it from the news. For example, I have this article that was recently published on, I need to put my glasses on so I can read it. It was published on May 8th of this year at the that's for Internal Medicine American College of Physicians journal, right? And it was published by Turban and colleagues. Okay, so they are talking about how coronavirus can actually be present even when there is a symptomatic situation going on, but if the virus is located in the respiratory area, right? So essentially, this can be spread everywhere. So we can talk about this more after commercial break, but this is a very interesting dynamic, that how it impacts psychological factor and what needs to be done about how to have sex or not to have sex, which is a really devastating situation. So
we will see you in a few seconds, and please stay tuned. We have a lot more to share.
Yes. See you shortly.
See you shortly.
Short break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 ABC News Radio. This is Dr. Mitra along with Dr. Robert here, talking about sex, sexuality, and relationship during pandemic. Please call us at 951-922-3532 and share your questions, your concerns with us. After all, this program belongs to you. And please share this program with those that you believe may benefit from this program. And you can watch us on YouTube at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. So, Dr. Robert, we were talking about this article that is published in the Journal of Internal Medicine, and then American College of Physicians, published on May 8th. Turban and colleague did this research. So now they say that the problem is that if coronavirus is anywhere in the lungs, right, and the person is asymptomatic, so they are something to be careful about. One is that the virus can remain stable on surface for days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. So then all types of in-person sexual activity probably carry risk of coronavirus transmission.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
then it can be spread and show on their skin, on personal objects, right? And then it can be transmitted, to sexual partner. And there is actually no guideline for this. And they said, the guideline is not engaged in any in-person sexual activity. But you and I, we know that this is not going to happen.
We know it's not going to happen. It's sort of like what I was talking about with you earlier in the 80s when the government was trying to cut back on the spread of AIDS,
Right.
and also on teenage pregnancy. The motto that the government was using was "just say no,"
Right.
and that was about as effective as zero.
Right.
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 Because look, what I just said at the very beginning of the program, we're born into the world as our authentic true selves, and we're born into our true selves as sexual beings.
Right.
So our sexuality is not something that we're going to suppress for any length of time.
Right.
And if we do suppress it, then there's other consequences for suppressing it, right?
Well, because sexuality is a core aspect of human being life.
Yes, exactly.
It's like telling people, okay, you can only eat once a day for unknown amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not even once a day,
Not
because
even once a
because
day.
the guideline here is not to have sex.
Right.
Of course, masturbation is the preferred and the one that we're saying is certainly safe. Because if you have it, you have it, and you're not going to give it to yourself if you don't
Right.
have it.
Right.
So of course, masturbation, and then we talked about that in one show about the cultural and the religious prohibitions, and our view here is more of a science view.
Right.
What we've learned in science and what we've learned in psychology and biology and sociology. And what we've learned about that is that masturbation is healthy, and that most people engage in masturbation. And so that is definitely an alternative. However, masturbation has its limitations in terms of how fulfilling it is, because it's not the same experience, obviously.
Right.
And you're not getting the feedback that is so important in the sexual connection when you have masturbation. You still get the fantasy, and you can still get excited, and you can still orgasm. All of that's good, but you're not getting the other person's physical touch, which is so valuable in terms of our mental health as well as our sexual arousal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not here going to tell you that you shouldn't have sex. What we are going to say is that you need common sense, and if you're in a sexual relationship, then you're probably already having sex, and that's probably not going to change. So
Right. So those people are sort of safe to continue with.
Well, safe if they haven't already contracted it,
Yeah, if
right?
they haven't already contracted it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then those who are not in a sexual relationship, then it's sort of, okay, what would be common sense rules? And to me, I'm not married, and I'm not in a sexual relationship, and that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be dating or at least dating online, for a while. And anybody that I meet, I'm going that I feel like I'm attracted to, and that that I might want to be sexual with. I am going to get to know first, and I'm going to find out, how how safe they are, not just with COVID, but with how well they take care of themselves.
Exactly. So that's, I think, what I'm hearing you say is that this is a good time for for those who are in the process of dating and do not have a significant other in their lives that's safe to have sex with, right? For example, being married to somebody, right? This is a good time that get to know each other and not allow, because usually sex at the beginning of relationship can kind of shadow learning about each other.
Well, it can slow it down,
right?
Because people, there's a euphoric high to when you get into a sexual relationship with someone, and that can delay finding out who that person is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So in a way, this can be a way of saying, well, now we have to do it a different way. We have to find out who the person is first, before we become sexual with them.
Exactly. So so that's one way, and then of course, the article points out good information about the danger of having kind of I guess we can call it online sexting or online sex, right? Where the two partners can masturbate where they are, but share that process together, and then talk about their likes and dislikes as they masturbate. So that's another form of getting to know each other. However, the danger part of that is how much of that information that's been exchanged remains confidential. So, and then we have heard, or they are, according to this article, they say that there are reports that conversations have been taped and distributed. There is a possibility of taking a photo of each other, and the photo, falls
and ends up online.
It ends up online somehow. And then, so that's a danger part about not having a secure online process, or getting to know the person good enough to know that you can actually trust this person to expose yourself, in a sexual manner online.
Right.
And then they're talking also about the danger of minors who are doing the same thing online, and how in terms of connecting with each other, they Photoshop each other, and then they put that online as a way of attracting the person that they are interested in, right?
Yeah.
So they are really significant. To me, this is significant. To me, it's significant that whether my conversations about my intimate relationship, or a photo of me being shown somewhere, somewhere online. Who knows what happens to that after that,
Well, I mean, yes. And of course, anybody, can do anything with Photoshop.
Right.
So even if they don't have a picture of your body, they can still Photoshop your head onto somebody else's nude body.
Right.
And put, so you're never 100% safe. However, you can take reasonable precautions by getting to know the other person that you're dealing with, and of course that comes with age and time and experience.
Right.
So what can a parent do then to make sure, not to make sure, but to do the best they can to help their child and their teenage child, especially, who is having going through puberty, or has gone through puberty, and then has a lot of sexual feelings. How can we help them to change, or to manage what they put out online, and when they involve themselves with someone, how can we help them to make sure that the person they're involving themselves with is an upstanding person?
Exactly. And then there are a variety of factors that also are alarming in this article about masturbation, and the use of devices, right, to masturbate. And so how to sanitize those items,
Mm-hmm.
right, is significant, and not share them with each other is significant,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are things like, we need to be really mindful of it, because in addition to corona, actually, other sexual transmitted diseases or infections can be transferred through the use of those, to share those kind of sexual toys, for example, I'm talking about here.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
So whether, according to another article that I don't have it here, and I know we talked about that here, we don't know yet whether corona-19 is another sexual transmitted disease or infection. Is it like HIV? Is it like AIDS?
Right.
Is it like HPV? Is it like syphilis? We don't know what category it can fall under, because this is a still work in process, and we don't know much about this virus, except that if somebody gets that, we know what can happen to the person, right?
Well, we actually don't know.
Well, for what we know,
we actually don't know.
Some people stay asymptomatic. Some people go through a process of discomfort. Some people can actually die from it.
We know that much,
right?
But what we don't know is, what does it mean if you're carrying the virus and you are asymptomatic?
Right.
We don't know that.
We don't know that much. We don't know what happens there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you are asymptomatic, what's going to happen a year from now? What's going to happen if you transmit that virus to somebody else? If you are asymptomatic, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen if you get somebody pregnant when you're carrying the virus and you're asymptomatic? So there's a lot that we still don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And these are actually the questions that they were left unanswered in the very first research that we talked about.
Yeah,
right?
We don't know enough. Yeah.
Right, we don't know, because the coronavirus stays in the man's sperm.
Right.
Even if they are asymptomatic. So having all this, information and misinformation.
Right.
Not having really a clear guideline about what to do, how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your partner, along with job loss, along with other discomforts, along with the fact that we cannot socialize like we used to do. Some people, they are even away from their children. Like, for example, myself, I haven't seen my daughter in about, since November.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not safe for her to travel to California. I don't want her to travel to California. She wants to come here. I want to see her, but we are saying no to that.
Right.
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 And then, not to mention, the job losses, not to mention so many things have remained kind of on hold until later on to be attended to.
Yeah.
Weddings, birthdays, gatherings, family commitment,
right?
Projects, job projects, healthcare. Many people need to do surgeries, but they are not considered essential surgeries. They are postponed. So we see pretty much our lives is staying on hold right now. We are on a standby kind of a situation and waiting to see where can we make our next move. So really, when we see people, they see an opening, and in this beautiful weather, they go to the beach. It really shows the psychological effect, right? They're looking for a break.
And so what I'd like to do, I know we're coming up on our next commercial. What I'd like to do is spend the remainder of our time. Let's talk about some solutions.
Right.
Yeah. Because what we don't want, what we were talking about, you and I earlier, is that fear is contagious.
Right.
Right. And when we talk about all the things that aren't going right and all the changes, it can tend to make people more afraid. And the more afraid people are, the more afraid people are, the more stressed they are. And the more stressed they are, the more they walk away going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And the more that happens, the worse they feel. The worse they feel, the more immobilized they become, and the worse decisions they make. So let's, you and I, when we come back, talk about some solutions to the stress and how people can cope with it differently.
I think that sounds like a great idea. So we'll see you back in a few minutes. after the commercial break. Radio. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about difficulties during pandemic as it relates to sex, sexuality, and relationships. And we were talking about some of the problems and some of the research findings. Basically not giving any guideline except stay away from having sex, which we know that's really has its own negative consequences as well. And now we're focusing on what we can do. And please call us 951-922-3532. We want to know about your experience as to how you're handling this issue for yourself.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Robert,
yes,
we were talking about, focusing on, solutions. So to me, one of the solution is instead of putting finger at each other, whether you have lost a job or you don't have enough income or you don't have any resources or, you're refusing sex or whatever is going on, collectively, I would say instead of pointing finger at each other, let's empower each other with what we have in our possession.
Mm-hmm. Empower each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have this pencil only, right? So instead of me being told, well, this is a pencil, how come you don't have a pen? If you would have had a pen, this would have happened this way or that way or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just focus on the pencil and see what this pencil can bring to us.
Yes.
Empowering each other with what we have. What we have is what we have. Let's see what that is. And because when we have so many other things, we kind of forget to look at what we have can holistically give us what we want. We just look at an aspect of the things that we have.
Yeah.
And we forget about the whole thing. We forget about the rest of it.
Yes. We're also in a very materialistic society, and people begin to equate what we have with who we are. And I think that what we've been talking about in the book that we've started and the book that we're working on is The Subconscious Runs the Show. And we talk in the book about how the human being is two parts. It's the human, which is the part of us that most of us live in most of the time. We're mostly human, where we think about day-to-day things. We think about money. We think about possessions. We think about security, and we think about a lot of things that are fear-filled. Fear-filled is because we want to survive, and we want to survive in the best possible way. So people who lose $1 million in the stock market can be very, very upset, even though they still have another million or another 2 million in there, and because they've equated, what they have with who they are. And what I want to say about that is that that's one way of looking at the world, and it's one way of running your life. The other way is the part of us that's the being of the human being. The being is the part of us that knows that all the material stuff that we have, although it's nice to have and everybody wants it, is not going to be the thing that is really going to make us the happiest. We all know stories of people who have been very rich and very powerful and have been very unhappy and have also abused and used their power in a negative way and taken all of their money and not done charitable things with it. So it's not about what we have. It's not about even what we do. It's mostly who we are. And that's the being part of us. The being part of us we call the spirit, we call the heart, we call the soul. And this being part of us is really only concerned with love. Love being the positive state of being in the world, that you can be loving towards others, you can be loving towards people that you know and people that you don't know, and you can be loving toward yourself. Or you can be not so much loving toward others or toward yourself. When we give love, love being unconditional positive regard to the other person, that person has been given a great gift. And when we give positive unconditional regard to ourselves, we are giving ourselves a great gift. Love, connection with other people, gratitude. Gratitude, I always tell my clients, is the best way from shifting from fear into love. Because if you focus on what you're grateful for, we now know as psychotherapists that whatever we focus on grows in our mind and begins to take us over. So it's not putting our head in the sand, and we just spent a large part of the program talking about all the things that are going on in the world and with COVID, and it's important for us to recognize that. It's important for us to recognize what the dangers are. But as we move away from that, now that we know what the dangers are, what can we focus on that's going to make us feel good about ourselves and connected with other beings? Because those two things, the things that make us feel good about ourselves and connected with others, are the things that are going to reduce our stress and increase our ability to feel a sense of oneness, and oneness with life, oneness with all the other creatures in the world that are living. We live in a world where the creatures and the plants and the trees and human beings all are supposed to be giving and receiving from each other. And when we are in a place where we're focused on connecting with other people and showing them positive, unconditional regard, we're opening ourselves to receiving that at the very moment that we're giving it. And to me, that's the major thing that we can do, is to focus on the fact that we care and we love and we appreciate and we're grateful for everyone else around us. And what is the gratitude? The gratitude is other people have built the building that we're sitting in. Right. You know, other people have made the clothes that I'm wearing. We're all totally interdependent, and we can appreciate that.
And the same way is within our family system, which is a much smaller society, right? So if we have the sense of gratitude just for having each other, in our lives, and just the fact that we are healthy, or even if we are exposed to corona, we are home, we can take care of each other, we have that togetherness, that showing self-compassion and showing compassion for each other, right. And these are the things that we don't recognize, but because society is kind of what should I say? That it's kind of injecting fear to us every minute. I mean, the minute we turn on the news, there is a fear factor happening. Right. It could be the same one, but it could be the same one which we hear in the morning. By the evening, it is so intensified that we feel like an earthquake of magnitude 10 is going to hit us any minute. Exactly. Right. Exactly. So, or with other news. So there is really not a good news. Even the weather channel, look at them. They say, "Oh, you have a lovely weather today," but guess what? By weekend it's going to be 100. So at least let us enjoy that with that nice temperature right now, right? Right. Let me not be so fearful to open a window and let this beautiful weather to come inside. Yeah. Right. And I am an advocate of living in the present moment. Right. Now, I am not saying that it's not okay or even positive thing to plan for the future. No, planning is different. But that's different than anticipating a negative future. Right. So planning for the future is fine, and the plans can change at a moment's notice if things happen. But what's happening in this moment? In this moment, what am I focusing on? Because again, whatever I focus on is going to grow in my mind. And we all know that our feelings, well, we don't all know, but I'm going to tell you now, our feelings do not come from our conscious minds. Right? We don't get up in the morning and say, "Oh, today I'm going to feel relaxed all day."
right? Because we don't feel like we have control over that. We can't predict that. And we can't think to myself, oh, right now I'm going to feel relaxed, or right now I'm going to feel sad, or right now I'm going to feel anxious. They just sort of happen to us, but they don't happen to us alone. They happen to us because there's stuff going on in our subconscious. There's beliefs and thoughts that are going on too quickly for us to register. And so our subconscious brings up the feelings, and the feelings have a lot to do with what our subconscious is contemplating. And we consciously can implant positive feelings in our subconscious through the use of love, gratitude, and appreciation that begin slowly to permeate throughout our subconscious and then serve us up the corresponding feelings.
Right.
And that's really what the purpose of good psychotherapy is to help the person be able to focus on and create positive feelings and positive beliefs and emotions within them that then those are the things that motivate them.
And it keeps us curious, and it keeps us creative, right? So I mean, there is this commercial that I've been seeing on TV which I just love, and I think the person who designed that commercial should be given an award. And the commercial is, for the next 30 seconds, do nothing.
Yeah.
And listen to it, and then there is a rain falling in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So for 30 seconds there is nothing but rain falling sound, and just do nothing. I mean, I swear, every time I don't want to miss that commercial. I want to tape it and play it for myself, because it's staying in a moment.
Yes.
Staying in the moment, and just pay attention to your body, pay attention to your surrounding, pay attention to the nature. It's one of the most beautiful gifts that we have, and we don't recognize it.
Most of us don't recognize it. Some of us do.
Right.
But I want to ask everybody to think for a moment, who is in charge of what you focus on?
Ourselves.
Well, who? But who?
Yeah.
Who is in charge? And everybody is vying for attention. You watch television and you get, I don't know how many commercials in between the shows. The shows are what, 20 minutes, and then 3 or 4 or 5 minute commercials, and then you have another 20 minutes. But in those 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, you may have 10, 15, 20 commercials. Sometimes, once I counted, there were 20 commercials in between, 10 second, 15 second, 30 commercials. They all want your attention. And the same thing with social media. This one says this one says that. Everybody is saying, pay attention to me, to my message, to what I want. And guess what? You get to choose. And that's the freedom that we have as human beings, is we have the freedom of choice as to what we focus on. And remember, whatever you focus on is going to grow in your consciousness, and you are going to manifest whatever that is.
Exactly. I mean, we can let our fears to run us. We're going to have a stress, and ultimately we're going to have anxiety. And anxiety impacts our body, impacts our mind, impacts our decision making, impacts our relationships, impacts our productivity, creativity. The list can go on and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
However, having common sense, appreciating and having gratitude for what we have in our possession, stay in a moment, appreciate each other, right? Be kind to ourselves so we can be kind to other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
These are the things that we can do, right? And then once we get to that point, we can start finding other ways for problem solving.
Right. So we know that one of the qualities of God is creativity. We see that everywhere, right? I mean, billions and billions of life forms on this planet, and everything from the great white whale to the amoeba that's invisible, that you can't see without a microscope. Everything is was created. And guess what? All the things that we look at, that the cars and the buildings and the clothing and the makeup and everything, that was also created too. Our imagination is the thing that makes us most like God. And whatever we choose to focus our imagination on is our creativity, and that's the thing that can free us.
Exactly. So, well, we can talk about this topic for hours and hours, but the time is about to end. I'd like to invite you to please join us tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Friday for another episode about addictions, codependency, and relationship with Dr. Robert Jaffe and myself. And also, I'd like to invite you again to join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. for another episode about sex, sexuality, and relationships. And until then, don't forget, all you need is love.
Love, love, love. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
Serving the Inland Empire and desert communities, this is KMET.